Hello everyone, and welcome back to Old Charles, the channel where we uncover the hidden history, value, and collecting secrets behind coins from around the world. Today, we'll be diving into the fascinating story of the United States 5-cent coin from 1977, also known as the Jefferson Nickel. Whether you found one in your pocket change, inherited a collection, or are simply curious about coin values, this video will guide you through the history, design, condition factors, and the actual market value of this coin in 2025. So let's begin. The 1977 Jefferson Nickel belongs to the long-running Jefferson Nickel series, which was first introduced in 1938, replacing the earlier Buffalo nickel. The design was created by Felix Schlag, and it featured Thomas Jefferson on the obverse side, honoring America's third president and the author of the Declaration of Independence. On the reverse, you'll find Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia home, a symbol of his legacy in American history. Why 1977? The Jefferson Nickel had already been in circulation for nearly 40 years without any major design changes. These nickels were struck primarily for circulation to meet everyday commerce needs. Unlike quarters or half dollars that were often collected or hoarded, nickels remained heavily used in daily transactions. The year 1977 itself was not a significant year for U.S. coinage, as no special bicentennial designs or commemorative issues were made. However, the nickel continued to play its role in daily life, vending machines, and commerce across the country. Interestingly, there were no San Francisco proof nickels struck in 1977, since the San Francisco Mint focused on proof sets with different years. The total mintage numbers were massive, in the hundreds of millions, ensuring that this coin is still commonly found in circulation today. But despite its common status, collectors still pay attention to details such as mint marks, strike quality, and errors. Now, let's talk about one of the most important factors in determining the value of a 1977 Jefferson Nickel. The condition coins are graded on a scale called the Sheldon scale, which ranges from poor, P1, all the way up to mint state, MS. 70. A well-worn 1977 nickel that has been in circulation for decades may only grade between good, G4, and fine, F12. These will show heavy wear, with Jefferson's hair and Monticello details worn smooth. A coin in very fine, VF 20 to VF 35, will still show strong details, especially on Jefferson's face, though Monticello may be a bit flat. In extremely fine, EF 40 to EF 45, condition, the coin will retain sharp details, with only minor wear visible. When you get to about uncirculated, -50 Australian dollars to -58 Australian dollars, the coin has only light touches of wear on the highest points, with most of its original luster intact. Finally, in mint state, MS 60 to MS 70, the coin has never been circulated. Here, value can jump significantly, especially if the nickel has full steps visible on Monticello, a feature that collectors prize highly. The full steps designation is very important. This refers to the number of steps visible at the base of Monticello on the reverse side. If all the steps are sharply struck and completely separated, the coin is considered much rarer and more valuable, especially from the 1970s era when full steps were harder to find. Now, let's get into what you're probably most curious about: the value of a 1977 Jefferson Nickel. In circulated condition, most 1977 nickels are only worth their face value of 5 cents. They were minted in such high quantities that common worn examples hold no premium. A circulated 1977 nickel in average condition is typically worth $0.05 to $0.10 in uncirculated condition, MS 60 to MS 63. Values range from $1 to $3. Higher mint state grades, like MS 65, can fetch $10 to $20 depending on eye appeal and strike quality. If you find one with the full steps designation, values can skyrocket. An MS 65 full steps 1977 nickel might be worth $75 to over $150, and the highest graded examples can even go into the hundreds of dollars at auction. Error coins also add interest. Some 1977 nickels have been discovered with off-center strikes, die cracks, or double dies. Depending on the rarity of the error, values can range anywhere from $20 to several $100. So, should you save every 1977 Jefferson nickel you find? The answer depends. If it's heavily circulated, it's best kept as pocket change. But if you come across a sharp, uncirculated coin, especially one with full steps, it could be worth adding to your collection. The Jefferson Nickel series is still ongoing today, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. Collectors love putting together full-date and full-step sets, which keeps demand strong even for coins from common years like 1977. So, the next time you see a simple nickel in your change, take a closer look, because it might just hold more value than you expect. We're taking a deep dive into the United States 5-cent coin from 1977, also known as the Jefferson Nickel. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary coin you see in your change every day, but its history connects us to almost a century of American coinage, from the Great Depression era all the way into the modern day. So, let's begin with the fascinating history behind this coin before we talk about its condition, grading, and current value. The story of the 1977 Jefferson Nickel ** begins long before 1977 itself. To understand why this coin looks the way it does and why it was so widely circulated, we need to go back to the 1930s. In 1938, the United States Mint decided it was time to replace the Buffalo nickel, which had been in circulation since 1913. The Buffalo nickel was beloved for its design, but it had problems. The design wore down quickly in circulation, and the high-relief details made the coin difficult to produce efficiently. The Mint held a public competition for a new design, and the winning entry came from Felix Schlag, a German-American sculptor. Schlag's design featured Thomas Jefferson, America's third president, on the obverse. Jefferson wasn't just chosen at random, he was a symbol of democracy, knowledge, and innovation. Jefferson was the principal author of the Declaration of Independence, the founder of the University of Virginia, and a strong believer in the idea that ordinary citizens should be educated and empowered. His face on the 5-cent coin represented both history and values that Americans could be proud of. On the reverse side of Schlag's design was Monticello, Jefferson's iconic Virginia home. Monticello wasn't just a house, it was a symbol of Jefferson's intellect and vision. Jefferson himself designed the mansion, inspired by neoclassical architecture, and it became a part of his identity. That's why for nearly 7 decades, the Jefferson Nickel carried Monticello on its back. Fast forward to 1977. The Jefferson Nickel had already been in production for almost 40 years with essentially the same design. While some coins had undergone dramatic changes like the $quarter with its bicentennial design in 1976, the nickel remained a stable, familiar face in everyday commerce. The 1977 Jefferson Nickel was struck during a time when the U.S. economy was undergoing challenges. Inflation was rising in the 1970s, and the value of money was shifting, but the nickel retained its role as one of the most commonly used coins in circulation. At a time when vending machines, payphones, and even arcade games relied on nickels, these coins were truly part of everyday life. The 1970s also saw changes in the composition of other U.S. coins. For example, the quarter and dime had lost their silver content back in 1965, shifting entirely to copper-nickel-clad compositions. However, the nickel had always been made of a 75% copper and 25% nickel alloy, and that composition remained unchanged in 1977. That stability gave the coin a sense of continuity amid a rapidly changing economy. The coins minted in 1977 came from 2 facilities: Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark, Denver Mint, D mint mark. Together, these mints produced hundreds of millions of nickels, making them widely available across the country. Unlike special commemorative issues, the 1977 Jefferson Nickel wasn't rare when it was made, but collectors today value it for the story it carries and for rare high-quality examples that survived. Another historical detail worth noting is the importance of full-steps nickels. By the 1970s, the Mint was struggling with quality control, and many nickels from this period were struck weakly, especially on Monticello's steps. That's why finding a 1977 nickel with sharp, full steps on Monticello is a big deal to collectors today. It reflects a level of striking precision that was uncommon in that era. In the bigger picture, the Jefferson Nickel series would continue with the same design until 2004, when the Mint introduced the Westward Journey series to commemorate the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition. But back in 1977, nobody knew this design would still be in use for another 3 decades. So, when you hold a 1977 Jefferson Nickel, you're not just holding a piece of pocket change. You're holding a link to America's past. A coin designed in the shadow of the Great Depression, used in the 1970s during a time of inflation, and still recognized today as part of everyday American currency. The most collectible are those rare MS coins with full steps. Because of the weak strikes in the 1970s, these are much harder to find. Error coins, like off-center strikes or double dies, can also increase value, sometimes reaching $20 to several $100, depending on rarity. So there you have it. The full history and value of the 1977 Jefferson Nickel ***. From its origins in 1938 to its place in the pocket change of 1977, this coin tells a story of American history, design, and everyday life. Now that we've uncovered the long history of the 1977 Jefferson Nickel, let's move to something that really matters for collectors and investors: the condition of the coin. The condition of a coin can mean the difference between being worth just face value, 5 cents, or being worth hundreds of dollars. So, let's break this down step by step. Let's carefully walk through what a 1977 Jefferson nickel looks like at each level of condition. At this lowest grade, the nickel is almost unrecognizable. Jefferson's profile is extremely faint, Monticello on the reverse is barely a shadow, and the coin may be heavily damaged or bent. Collectors generally don't keep coins in this state unless it's an extremely rare date, which 1977 is not. At this level, you can just barely make out Jefferson's head and the outline of Monticello. Letters are often merged into the rim. For a 1977 nickel, this is still just face valued. Jefferson's head is visible but with no fine details. His hair blends into a flat surface, and Monticello looks more like a basic box with a roof rather than a building with steps and columns. The motto and date are still readable, which is the only reason collectors might identify it. Some details return. Jefferson's jawline and hair outline are visible. Monticello's structure is more defined, but the steps are gone. This is a well-worn but readable coin. Jefferson's face and hair show more clarity. You'll see slight traces of his cheekbone and hairline. Monticello's outline is clear, but no sharp details are left. Still very common in circulation. This is where the coin starts to look attractive again. Jefferson's hair begins to show more strands, and Monticello shows the dome clearly. While worn, the coin still has character. This is often the highest condition you'll see if you pull a 1977 nickel from circulation today. Here, most major details are intact. Jefferson's hair and face have strong definition, and Monticello has crisp lines, though the highest points of the design show light wear. Coins in this grade are better than average and may carry small premiums, but not much. These coins look nearly brand new, but under magnification or good light, you'll see small areas of wear, usually on Jefferson's cheekbone, jawline, and the steps of Monticello. Most of the original mint luster that shiny glow coins have when they're first struck is still present. Now we're entering the collector's territory. These coins have never been in circulation. They retain full luster, though MS-60 examples may have heavy bag marks or dull luster. MS-63 coins are much nicer, with fewer marks and better eye appeal. These are sharp, attractive coins with strong luster, minimal contact marks, and very appealing surfaces. An MS-65 1977 nickel may only be worth $10-20, but that's already much more than face value. Very rare for a 1977 nickel. At this level, the coin has razor-sharp detail, blazing luster, and almost no flaws visible to the naked eye. Coins graded this high can sell for hundreds of dollars at auction. But the grading doesn't end there. For Jefferson nickels, collectors pay special attention to something called the full steps designation on the reverse side of the coin. At the bottom of Monticello, there are 6 steps leading up to the building. On most 1977 nickels, these steps are blurry or incomplete, because the mint striking pressure in the 1970s was often weak. If your coin shows all the steps clearly, without breaks or flattening, it qualifies as a full steps FS nickel. These are far scarcer and much more valuable.